here we go. Get ready, guys, because Paper Mario and the Origami King is pretty good. Not a lot of series appeal to me in the way that Paper Mario has in the past, but one of the big things I found to be the problem with this series is actually not the games. It's the community, it's the fan base, because there are two extremes. There are the ones who love the old and really only want the old, and then the ones that want the new and tell everyone to just shut up and enjoy it. There needs to be less of an extreme there, because Paper Mario has branched off into something that's a lot different than it used to be. Now, yes, it's important to be open to new stuff and praise the old stuff that the game did right. Critique things while playing the game, not while reading about them. I think the only thing you can really critique without playing a game is the story, and maybe graphics, visuals, music. But some things you really only feel when you actually play the game. But I guess that happens with a lot of fan bases, but it's still something I'd consider a problem with the series in general because of the fan base it has spawned. Now, the Origami King, I will not compare it to Thousand Year Door, not in such a direct way. They're two different genres. I'd consider Thousand Year Door to be an RPG, while Origami King is a puzzle game. The older games, the first two games in the series, the original Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door, tried to combine those two genres, but focused more on the RPG element of it to make the game feel unique. As the games went on, Super Paper Mario became more of a platformer with RPG elements, but mostly a puzzle game, I'd say. Or maybe not mostly, but it was mostly a platformer. But the puzzle part was still there. So, as time passed, Sticker Star came out. I didn't play that. I didn't play Color Splash either. But from what I do know is that the game kind of shifted. In Sticker Star, battling was a gigantic pain in the ass, and they used a world map. Did the same thing in Color Splash, I think? Not entirely sure, I should have researched that. But, regardless, it seemed like there was a bigger emphasis on the puzzles than the actual game. Or the actual RPG and battle elements, as Color Splash had literally no reason to fight. That's a huge complaint I saw everywhere when this game was being announced and talked about all the time. Now, the writing in Origami King is stellar. If you've played a Paper Mario game, you know exactly what you're gonna see. And it's good. I love it, it's comedic, it's well paced, and the narrative is good, but not really unexpected. Now, another thing that it does well is the world building. Since there's no longer a world map, everything gets connected. The world feels alive. It's visually very papery, it embraces that aesthetic, and I love that. It's a beautiful world, with varied landscapes and all of the mesh. But, at the same time, kind of had a few things I didn't like. There's a whole water traversal part that I really didn't enjoy. But aside from that, world's fine. World building is perfect, honestly. Gameplay-wise, the battles focus on kind of like a puzzle-solving combat where you have to line up enemies in a specific way to get increased attack power and sometimes increased actions on turns. It takes its own ideas and implements some action commands, so it's kind of like Thousand Year Door while also being its own thing. And I don't want to compare it to Thousand Year Door that much. So the action commands just make it more Mario RPG-esque, but at the same time they are their own thing. Now, you can spend coins to help solve tough puzzles that you can't figure out in battle, or increase the time given to solve a puzzle. On top of that, you can also restore your HP or deal light damage by using coins to get the crowd to cheer for you. Boss fights have their own unique spin on fighting, where you move from the outside in towards the boss, and each boss feels very unique and has their own weak points and strategies to beat them. It makes the boss fights fun and less of a spam your strongest move and attack. Ultimately, I found it very enjoyable, but on personal preference, I also felt that skipping battles here and there and because of lack of EXP, actually made the game more enjoyable for me. Because if I did every single battle, I would get very tired of the system overall. Which, is it a problem? Maybe, but it's really up to you, because I wasn't very good at these puzzles. So yeah, that's a more of a me thing, you know. If you're into doing every battle, then your coin total is going to pile up. And you might run into coin problems if you are a less conservative player that doesn't do all the battles. But you probably won't run into coin problems if you're a conservative player who doesn't like to use their limited use weapons that much, especially if they're powerful. Though I recommend doing it in the late game, regardless of what kind of player you are. And fleeing is also punishable, because if you fail, then the enemies will all get to attack. Exploration-wise, with the Origami King, there's a lot of collectibles. There are trophies scattered everywhere, there are toads in the overworld. The trophies are pretty easy to come by, I'd say. I mean, a lot of them you get from chests, or doing certain quests, paying for them even. Just, you know, regular menial tasks, I suppose. The toads are pretty much scattered in the overworld. A lot of them, you just have to hit random objects you find, and you get some helpful items that will let you track them down a little easier. Sometimes they could just be in a grassy field, crumpled up in a paper ball, or maybe they're a butterfly. Just hit everything with your hammer, I guess. Confetti is scattered all over the world. You hit everything with your hammer, most crap knocks out confetti. And you use that confetti to patch up holes, which can open up healing stations, fast travel points, and just give you coins. And also get rid of obstacles, you know, as they probably would be used. But you can only carry a limited amount, which is why it's important to always keep your stock. You can also get them from battles, which is good. Make sure you do battles if you're running low on confetti, because there are only a few times I ran out, but sometimes I ran out when I really needed it, and I should have done some battles to get it back. But it's a charming mechanic, and the limited supply kind of helps give battles more worth to do. Now, the visuals and music are pretty much visualized all related to paper. It makes the world seem like a world, like, you know, everything's made out of paper, so, or like some kind of paper-esque object, something related to paper, which makes it super interesting and aesthetically pleasing, I'd say. And the bosses are given unique personalities, even if they are just random objects, which I think is great. Some of them were really entertaining, in my opinion. The music is good, nothing seems out of place, and it all matches the mood. And there are a few different battle themes even to keep battles sounding fresh, which I really enjoyed. But I think towards the end, the same battle theme was playing a lot, and that was a little underwhelming for me, but it wasn't a bad battle theme, so I guess you could say I was whelmed, at best. My real final thoughts for this game are that it's a very good game. Origami King is really, it's a good game. It's a good puzzle game. It's not an RPG. And I think it misses the mark of being great due to some limitations placed on the team working on the game by Nintendo, or so I'd assume. Here's a quote that you've probably heard a lot about if you're, you know, you've been sifting through Paper Mario videos. I obtained it from VideoGameChronicle.com in an interview with Tanabe, the game's producer, and the producer of the past 3 Paper Mario games. Since Paper Mario Sticker Star, it is no longer possible to modify Mario characters or to create characters that touch on the Mario universe. That means if we aren't using Mario characters for bosses, we need to design original characters with designs that don't involve the Mario universe at all, like we've done with Ollie, the main antagonist of the game, and the stationary bosses. And that's a little disappointing because the older games had a lot of charm to them by having characters who are uniquely distinguishable. But I guess it really didn't matter to me in the end. I felt like what they did with the characters in this game was fine. I enjoyed it, and even without the unique designs, I don't think the game has lost its charm, or enough charm to say that it's not a good game. This does not... You losing the unique designs does not crush the game at all. Though I love A Thousand Year Door, the series has moved on from being an RPG. It originally had two elements, which were puzzle solving and RPG mechanics. The series ultimately chose to embrace the puzzles and leave the RPG elements behind because of the existence of the Mario & Luigi RPG series. Rest in peace, Alpha Dream. But while that did originally disappoint me, I've kind of moved on from that. The game doesn't need to be A Thousand Year Door. I enjoyed it, and I didn't need to compare it to Thousand Year Door every time I was playing. If you disagree with my opinion, that's fine. If you disagree with my approach to approaching these games, that's fine. But they're... You know, you have to let things go sometimes. I love Thousand Year Door. It's my top game of all time. Not the best I've played, but my favorite overall. And maybe you aren't satisfied with my final thoughts, and you thought I'd be talking about how this is the worst game I've ever played, this is the worst Paper Mario game, blah blah blah. It's not. It's far from it, I'd say. To me, it may not be as good as the first three games in the series, but it's good. And I think that it's a charming game with great music, a unique combat system that's kind of interesting. I really enjoyed it. But I guess if you aren't satisfied with that and you want some turn-based RPGs to play, well, why not try some of these? You want something with a by-the-books turn-based combat system and a pretty predictable but satisfying story? Dragon Quest XI's is available on the Nintendo Switch. Dungeon crawling with more mature themes? Persona 4 Golden just came out on PC. Probably not that high requirement game. Simple turn-based fun with a large roster of characters to choose from. Pokemon Sword and Shield. A game reminiscent of Thousand Year Door's combat style? Bug Fables. A stylish and compelling story? Persona 5 Royal. Granted, that's on an entirely different system. And we've got SMT5, Shin Megami Tensei, just announced. Day of this recording. Coming out literally next year. And Shin Megami Tensei 3 coming out next year as well for the West. Japan gets it earlier. Probably voiceover stuff. What I'm trying to say here is that there are a lot of other games to play that follow an RPG element. They're not the same as Paper Mario, and I guess they never really will be. And you can wish for it, but it might not happen. Because the developers have their own visions. The designers also have their own visions for the series, and just because it doesn't match your own doesn't mean the game is bad. Now, you could not like the game, but I believe there's a difference between saying a game is bad and I don't like this game. And that difference needs to be distinguished when you are trying to look at a game and review it. Because you are essentially telling your audience, I don't like this game. And then, if a game is actually bad, you say, this game is actually bad. I like this game, and I think it's good. Those are two very different things. Because I could like a horrible fucking game. Like Final Fantasy 15. A lot of people said on release it was really bad, and I thought it was great. But that doesn't mean that it didn't have its problems. That didn't make it bad. I'm just saying that sometimes series change, and you kind of have to let them change because, you know, you can boycott. You cannot buy the game, that's fine. But, you know, things just change sometimes, and there's nothing you can really do about it. You can yell on the internet all you want, but be proper with critiquing things and find new things to enjoy. Because even I've had to do that. With Paper Mario no longer being an RPG, I've had to adopt a ton of different series for turn-based RPGs that I've honestly fallen in love with. And, you know, that's just the way it goes. If you want an arbitrary number score, here it is. But it doesn't really mean much to me. So, until then, next review, probably Ghost of Tsushima. See you then.